All right, let's welcome in Bill Hancock, who is the executive director of the College Football Playoff. Now, Bill, before you came on, you and I were talking about Clay Henry, who you might just know as Butch's brother, and he told me of a story where you guys had breakfast in Boulder prior to the Colorado-Oklahoma game. Do you remember that at all?
I couldn't have told you who played in the game. All I remember is the good time that Clay and I had, and we drove up into the mountains, and I believe the aspen were turning yellow. It was one of those great, memorable moments. And I will say this. You said that people know Clay as Butch's brother. Let me just say that they know Butch as Clay's brother.
Well, I have not personally met Butch, but Clay has been an instrumental part of my life, not just in radio, but other stuff. So when he told me that yesterday, I just wanted to make sure I started out with that. We had the privilege of listening to Greg Sankey on Monday, and I know one of the questions he was misquoted and he was quick to say, so I just want to make sure I reread the statement that you made in February that at this point in time it's been advised for the next 4 years, is that correct, that the college football playoff is going to stay at a format? What was that like working through that and then coming that decision for the next 4 years that it's going to stay it's the same way?
The university presidents that managed the CFP 3 years ago had said that they were interested in a new format, expanded format, and they directed the commissioners to get working on it. Well, the commissioners started working on it with a committee, and then COVID hit, so everything had to pause. And when we came back, the committee got back together and said, okay, we're going to recommend a 12-team playoff with 6 conference champions and 6 at-large teams. And at the time, the committee said, check this out. Talk to people on your campuses about it. And then we'll come back together, the commissioners, and see what everybody thinks. Well, they talked about it. They came back, and some of the conferences were just not ready to expand at that time. So that led to the February decision to stay with the 4. And we do have 4 more years this season and 3 more. But we'll roll up our sleeves and get started thinking about a new format before too long.
I think you kind of have a difficult job. You have to hand the trophy to the head coach, whether it's Nick Saban, Kirby Smart, Ed Ogeron, kind of the SEC names the last couple of years. And I think it was the Stanley Cup that got broken a few. Are you nervous at all when are you clutching and shaking when you're handing that trophy? Because the last thing they need in the situation for it to be dropped. Is that a nervous moment for you?
I do have to do some weightlifting to get ready. It's one of the great moments presenting the trophy, and I hear from my childhood friends who see it on television. And of course, my role is to say what I have to say really fast and get the heck out of there, because it's not about me, it's about those coaches and players.
Now, I was unaware until Clay passed along the information that at one point you were associated with the Big 8. And now we're in a situation where Oklahoma and Missouri come to the SEC. It's kind of Big 8 reunion of sorts. Could you ever foresee the conference realignment that we're now seeing taking place today, especially with the additions in the Big 10 with USC and UCLA?
You know, you have to remember that conferences have been realigning forever. Oklahoma left Oklahoma A&M behind in 1927. Well, so if you look at your history, you know that history repeats itself. And I think people would have thought, how can we have college football without Oklahoma and Nebraska playing on Thanksgiving? Well, we do. We still do, and it works fine. How can we have college football without Arkansas and Texas playing each other? Well, we do, and it works fine. Change happens, and we just have to deal with it and get down the road.
I know there's change happening. I think it was CNBC that reported that the ESPN Plus is going from $6.99 to $9.99. Now, you, myself, Drew, who's sitting next to us right now, we're diehard college football fans. You work in it. We work in it. The younger generation, including my own, having so many options, Netflix, Hulu, so many different areas where there's only a couple channels back in the day. How does college football continue to grip and hold on to that younger audience and keep their interest within sports?
Let me ask you and Drew, what do you watch on what we call linear TV, network TV, ABC, CBS, NBC, Fox?
College football.
My grandkids don't watch much on linear TV. It's a new day, but the revenue still comes from the old linear TV. the new digital people don't have the resources yet to match the linear side as far as rights fees.
What has to happen for a team that's not Georgia, Alabama, LSU, just to get into that? Like, because some teams don't feel like they can get to that point. In your opinion, what has to happen, Bill, to reach that next level, for them to reach the playoffs?
It's about the athletes, and what they used to say, it's not about the X's and O's, it's about the Jimmies and Joes. It's all about the athletes. Coaching, of course, plays a big part, but it's about the talent of the young people who play our game. Big, strong, fast, quick athletes make this game what it is.
Bill, I know that it's difficult sometimes with New Year's Eve festivities for the college football playoff, and some people, now my attention is always going to be diverted to that. I will go to my stuff at night after the games are over, but that's what I'm locked into. Have you found it to be more difficult when the game falls on New Year's Day with the Rose Bowl and the setup there to suck in the same audience that you may when it's not on that specific New Year's Eve?
We tried to do something special early in the playoff and have the semifinals on New Year's Eve, and we learned that just didn't work. So we pivoted away from that. Now, this year's semifinals will be on New Year's Eve again, but it's a Saturday. And last year we were New Year's Eve, but it was the national holiday for New Year's Day. It was Friday the holiday. Future, I don't know where we'll land on dates in the future, but New Year's Day obviously belongs to college football, and we need to make sure that continues.
Talking with Bill Hancock, who is the executive director of the college football playoff. Bill, you've held many jobs over the years. I referenced your Big 8 one. What have you noticed about just the different rules and regulations that have kind of transitioned from maybe where you were when you started in the industry to where we are today with college football?
Things are different today, and I would say this. I think our group of 130 schools, FBS schools, need more control, need more say in how they manage themselves. And I think we're going to see that happening probably at the NCAA level, that FBS is able to determine everything from playing rules to eligibility rules. Greg Sankey touched on that yesterday, and that represents the common sense of it all at our level.
Is there a game in particular and that may just like you will remember it till they put you in the ground? Like, is there a game that you just lock onto and say, you know what, I will never ever forget that? I think back to a game I watched was Texas and USC in 05. Never will forget that game. Keith Jackson's final call. What's it for you, Bill?
Oh my goodness, really good question. One comes to mind first, and it is the 1971 Nebraska-Oklahoma game, the game of the century at the time. Great, phenomenal, high-anticipated game that proved to be everything people anticipated. I want to throw out a couple more. The Texas-Alabama game. These are games that I've seen. Texas-USC game, I mean. Again, another highly anticipated game that proved to be every bit as good as we thought it was going to be. And I was able to go see the CFP semifinal game between Ohio State and Clemson in Phoenix a few years ago. A remarkable game. Athletes playing their hearts out. And I'll give you one more, another CFP game, the Georgia-Oklahoma, the 2 overtime game out in the Rose Bowl. Could have gone either way. And I saw that Bob Bowlesby in his kind of closing remarks about his regrets at the Big 12. He said, I really don't have any, but I regret that Oklahoma didn't win that ball game. So, but yeah, to repeat, I go back to my favorite day in college football was 1971 Nebraska-Oklahoma.
Well, Bill, we really appreciate you making some time for us. It's always good to catch up down here, and it's funny to hear old stories with Clay Henry.
Yeah, we had some great times with the Henry boys, and of course I knew their dad. And the game we have to mention, I got to go back to that, but is the Texas-Arkansas game, which I did not go to, certainly watched it on TV. One of those remarkable generational football games, and everybody in Arkansas and Texas certainly remembers that one.
unfortunate loss. Well, Bill, again, thank you so much for making some time.
Thank you. This is great. Take
Partners
care.
at BetOnline continue to be the #1 source for all your betting needs and sports info. Find all the latest odds, news, and sports developments, including this year's Wimbledon Finals, Major League Baseball, the latest fighting news, and even next season's early NFL futures. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use our promo code BLEAV. That's BLEAV to get the bonus and get into the action. Bet online, where the game starts.